60 hours without food, a fasting reflection. Not just hunger, how water fasting clears the path to inner wisdom. I just completed a 60-hour water fast. That's 2 full days and 2 nights with no food, just water and a couple pinches of salt. It's not my longest fast. I once did 4.5 days with a partner who had very little body fat. It was much harder on him than on me, someone blessed or burdened with generous energy reserves. That experience showed me how different fasting can feel depending on your body, and it deepened my respect for the process. Obligatory disclaimer: I'm not recommending anyone attempt a water fast without speaking to a medical professional first. Fasting can come with real risks. This is just my personal experience and some reflections on what I've learned along the way. I was originally drawn to fasting for physical reasons. I've dealt with systemic inflammation my whole life, and I've always lived in a fat body. I've tried countless diets, most of which only triggered other problems. Weight Watchers was too fiber heavy for my gut. Counting calories made me spiral mentally. Whole30 felt like a full-time job. Low-carb approaches have worked, but only for short stretches. Most of the time I eat intuitively. I rotate supplements based on what my body seems to ask for. I try to stick with whole foods and stay gluten-free, but I go through sugar phases, especially with cereal. Cereal has always been a comfort food. Growing up poor, we relied on food banks, and cereal and candy were always on hand. When my dad didn't show up for his dinner night, I'd reach for cereal. It was soothing, familiar, sweet. Fasting, in contrast, feels easier for me than dieting. When I stop eating altogether, my inflammation subsides, my digestion improves, and I drop a few pounds. I've read that fasting helps the body shed damaged stem cells and regenerate healthier ones. It's like a reset button, not just for the body, but for the mind and spirit. Of course, it's not without its challenges. I naturally have low blood pressure, and fasting can drop it even further. When I start to feel faint or unusually sluggish, I know it's time to gently start refeeding. But what keeps drawing me back to fasting are the non-physical effects. After about 24 hours without food, my senses sharpen, my vision clears, I become more attuned to subtle signals from my body. I notice that hunger pangs rise and fall like waves. They don't need to be fed immediately. I can observe them, breathe, and they pass. Longer fasts slow me down in a way that feels sacred. I become deliberate with my energy. Climbing the stairs becomes a meditation. Every step, every movement feels intentional. Time stretches, and with it, space opens for presence, for listening. That stillness is where my intuition gets loud. Fasting creates a quiet inside me, not just physical silence, but a softening of all the mental and emotional noise that normally clouds my inner knowing. I can better distinguish between the fleeting and the true, between an anxious thought and a soul nudge. I remember that, like hunger, most discomforts pass, but some signals persist, and those are worth following. Water fasting, for me, becomes a spiritual practice. It's not just the absence of food, it's a return to elemental simplicity. Just water, just breath, just being. It reminds me of Yamaya, the Aruba goddess of the ocean, divine mother, nurturer, and keeper of deep emotional wisdom. Her waters heal, cleanse, and rebirth. In many traditions, fasting with water is seen as a sacred offering, a return to the womb of stillness where new insight can resurface. Invoking Yamaya during a fast transforms water into something more than hydration. It becomes communion. She teaches that nourishment isn't always food. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's stillness. Sometimes it's the rhythm of your own breath, your own body, your own truth, coming back into focus. And in that sacred pause, your intuition doesn't just whisper, it rises.